Morris. I thought they did a really good job as far as having the guys and their team ready to play, and we didn't execute in any capacity of what we're capable of or what we expect and what the players expect. And I think it's unfortunate. Obviously, it's hard to stop people, but when you give them the ball so many times over and over and over with poor decision making or just lack of ball security, bad things will happen. We did not play well. 9 of 9. They were 9 of 9 in the red zone. Some of these things, like, I do expect the defense to have a better stand, but at the same time, with drives starting at the 12-yard line after an interception returned, an interception at the -30, we were able to go 3 and out on that one. A drive starting at the 19-yard line after a fumble, a drive starting at the 30-yard line after a muff punt, a drive starting at the 12-yard line after an interception, and a drive starting at the 20-yard line after a fumble, all leading into the half, is a recipe for disaster. And right now, that is behind us. The only thing that we can control is our attitude, our mindset, is how we move forward and get ready to play what is a really tough Washington football team, one that I think is much improved from last year with a dynamic quarterback and 2 NFL running backs that are elite. They got great skill on the perimeter, and they've improved significantly up front, and there's no question defensively they are stout. They play a 5-man front, and they're going to play in a lot of man with elite corners. So this game will surely present challenges. I'm more interested in how we're going to respond, the attitude in which we attack the process of practice and preparing and having the right mindset to take a growth type mindset and take steps in the right direction. This is going to be an intense game, an emotional game for a lot of our players that have played in it, but also those that are from the state of Washington that take pride here in playing at Washington State. So I'm excited. We got to move on. Obviously, I don't think there's anybody more disappointed in how we played or what we played, because I do feel like everything at the end of it is a reflection of what I didn't do. I feel like that personally. And so we got to get our guys to respond and bounce back and get ready to play a better brand of football and be proud of what we put on the field.
I want to ask about the running game. You guys, through 3 games, have 206 rushing yards, which is actually 6th fewest in the country. Yeah. In your mind, what is the main issue with the running game, and what kind of effect does that have on the rest of your offense?
It has an effect, surely. And as I told the offensive staff yesterday and even reminding them today, it's more about what our guys can do physically at this point. I do think it's technique inside of things as far as getting their heads to the right place, communication up front, false stepping at the line of scrimmage, and playing together as one. And at times when you don't have that success, the running backs don't trust their track because it didn't work 1 play or 2 plays, and then when it is there, they don't hit it because they're expecting it not to be there. And I wouldn't just say that from the offensive line standpoint and the running backs. I would say that collectively throughout the second half there, we started to. That's what happens when you start to play from behind. You feel like you got to make every play, and you stop doing what was taught, and you start looking to try to make a play, and then that's when bad things happen. Everybody's responsible for their job, and just because it didn't go our way the first time or we didn't execute doesn't mean that it's not going to be there the second time or the third time. Because in all reality, we had some progression down the field in some capacity. Was it by big play at times? Yes. Would I like to see it more consistent? Yes. It was the turnovers that killed us because of poor decision making, or honestly throwing some RPOs and throwing the ball away when the read said to give. And those are things that we'll learn through with a young quarterback, and he needs to continue to grow and chomp at the bit to compete for the spot this week, because that's what it will be. And so I know that that's probably the next question that you'll ask is who's going to play a quarterback. I got to make an assessment off of who's progressing the right way throughout the season. And right now it will be open this week.
So is it open competition?
Yes, it is.
Okay. What do you want to see? Well, first, is it just going to be him, Zevi, and Julian on that? Okay. Yeah. What do you want to see out of those 3 guys, and what's that going to be like?
Well, Julian's got to progress his decision-making process as far as not just premeditating his throws. He knows this. And then you got to get off of a certain read, right? I got to get off the read, and I got to get to the next check without patting the ball and then looking to scramble right away when it's not really there. Zevi, obviously, some of the decisions there, he's got to hit those open throws. For him, that's kind of been the thing. But as far as like his command of the offense, it's there. His leadership is there. His work ethic is there. And he gives us a little bit of flexibility with his feet. Is he like elite twitch? And it's not. It doesn't need to be either. He's got to create something when something's not there. And then Potter has to improve decision making. He has done a great job in the 2 games, right, of putting the ball in tight windows. But at some point, you got to be able to see the coverage. He missed some open throws. And he's got to grow, right? He's a young quarterback that's going through it for the first time. And the reality is, the situation that we're in, and I don't want to look at this whole thing constantly as a rebuild. That we got to have success to rebuild, and for me, it's about winning right now and being in the present. And we got to grow offensively significantly because we got to make sure that we can put up some points. Right? You have 5 turnovers in one half. It's hard to win because the game ran away from us in the second quarter there, just with poor play. Was it anything that they did? They played hard. They were physical. They made plays, and they were, opportunistic about like the opportunities that came their way. And we got to respond. I do think that when you turn the ball over, defensively, we got to start better. We had our opportunities in that first series. They went 75 yards on us. We get them to 2nd and 16, and then we give up a 2nd and 17, and we give up what is a routine play that we could have stopped them for a 3rd and 9 probably, and made the situation quite a bit different. But they didn't. We didn't. They scored on us, and then we turned the ball over, and the ball goes to the 12-yard line, and they score on that first play. So within 4 minutes of that game, it's already 14-0. We had opportunities offensively to capitalize to change that game. It was 14-3. We hit the big shot. And, if you can stay consistent and just move the ball, that drive needs to end with points regardless. Because now you're looking at a 1-score game. Obviously, if it's 14-6 and if it's 14-10, you're completely back in it. And maybe the mindset is different, but when you go series after series with blunders of mistakes, not just in the run game, but just turning the ball over, it's hard to respond. If anything, I was more disappointed in just the response, but it got out of hand so fast that it was one of those games where it's hard to get the mojo back, especially when you're going into the half down by that much, right? So message at half was just you can't make it all up at once, and you can't change the first half. We got to play in the present and be proud of what we do competitively as far as how our effort displays just that, how much we care, and that we're better than what we put on the product in the first half. So we'll grow, but we have to move on. And I can't sit in the past and constantly think about what happened in this game. Obviously, there's things that will be addressed as far as how we approach practice, to the process of the things that we need to improve at. But we need to move forward because as much as we hammer on these things, we can't be living on what happened. We got to move forward on what we're getting ready to play this week, which is a really good Washington team.
What do you need to see specifically from Jackson this week that shows his confidence hasn't been shaken by such a tough performance?
That's up to Jackson to control his own confidence. For us, it's making the right decisions in the RPO more than anything else. And then making the right decisions in coverage. We had 4 verts versus cover 2 look, which we got to pull the Mike linebacker off the middle of the hash to one side, but throw it opposite against the grain, and we missed one shot there. To Meredith, he was wide open, and that's kind of like a standard football play in college football. And we just threw it in that window, and he's going to learn from these things. He's young, but obviously he's got to continue to grow and process the information and take it in stride.
Just for the rest of the team, how did they come back from that game? Kind of what have you been hearing from the guys as they get ready to attack this next week of practice?
The team knows that we're better than that. I can promise you that. And the reality is there's no magic wand that's going to bail us out right now. There's no amount of money that we can go out and just plug and play another guy in right, 4 games into the season. We have to respond because nobody's coming to save us. So you have to choose your attitude, and I think you have to choose a level of certain positivity of how you go about your approach, that you believe in yourself, and it doesn't matter what the outside world thinks of you. because it's easy to be a critic. You got to be your own biggest critic, and you got to be able to take the mistakes that are in this game and grow from them, and then move on. But you got to grow from them. You can't ignore them.
Coach, just kind of, again, touching on the run game, it feels like in particular Angels had some problems just finding space, and there hasn't been the holes for him there. Obviously, you've seen him more than any of us. What have you just kind of seen on tape that maybe he's keeping him from being effective, whereas even, Kirby, Leo, and Max in the passing have found a little bit more space to work?
I would say Leo and Kirby have played probably more decisive. They've made a decision, and they've lived with it, and they hit it downhill, and what they get is what they get. And I think Kirby had one that was indecisive on this fumble. He was supposed to spray it, and he didn't, and he could have got to the safety much faster. Instead, he stood in traffic and tried to bounce late and didn't have the greatest ball security, and the safety came up and made a play. So they all got stuff to improve on. It's just not Angel. Angel's got to stay in there and strike, in big-on-big protection or half slide, and he's got to pick up the blitzer, and he didn't do this job, and he knows that. I don't need to tell him. He saw it on film. So that play impacted the first interception, obviously, but at the same time, you can't make that decision to throw that ball when you're in traffic if you don't have a clear read to throw the football.
When you kind of look at the week ahead, is there, you obviously mentioned the quarterback competition kind of opening up, and you've preached all year that there's always battling, you always have to earn your spot. Is there any other spots?
Because it's unique, the fact that you have a starter, right? You have a transfer, and you have another young quarterback, and you have another transfer, right? It's the situation that we're in right now, and if I don't open this and make it competitive, what does it say to the team? Because we're looking for answers right now, and we're looking for competitive depth, and we're looking for guys that want to continue to grow. And it's not just at the quarterback position. And why I say that is if the players aren't performing, right, and you're always going to be a 2 just because coach set the depth chart out at the start of the season. Why do I care to practice? Right? You got to earn it weekly, and I think that's fair. And I think when you recruit to a certain dialogue where the best players play, you have to show that you're the best player week in and week out. If there was a longevity of proven proof, right, it's quite a bit different. There's certain guys at certain positions that have played for one in the system and have had long-term success, that there's a trust factor in them because you've seen so much of production and that what they know, and they may have a bad game here or there, but overall those guys have somewhat separated in their position group, right? For the quarterback competition to be as competitive as it was, it's my job to make sure that I honor what I said, which is everybody gets a fair shake, and I think it's fair. And is it ideal? It's not, right? And I'm living in an unideal situation, but the reality is I got to continue to improve what we can improve, and that's offensively we got to get better, and we got to have production. And I wish the situation was different where you had but it's not. But right now, my job is to be honest, give honest dialogue, give an honest opportunity, and that there was that during the summer and in camp, and there's been one through the opportunity of the first 3 games. People made a lot of, the situation in the Idaho game, like Duggar was going to be a part of the plan just because, Potter doesn't have active legs and runs the football. When he got put into that game, we were already planning on putting him in on the next series. So when you tell the guy, like, hey, get ready, you're going to take this next series, and then a turnover happens, right? Or, it's just what it is. Like, he was going in on that series. So, I've been proud of Zevi, though, as far as how he's gone about his work, and he's been put in a tough situation. And he would be the first one to tell you that he didn't play the best in the fall camp. But the reality is he's in here and he's preparing like a starter, like I would want anybody to do. But it's his senior year. It's his last year. And he deserves it that I'm honest with what we see, because the world saw it, right? It's not just me. So Potter will get better, Zevi needs to get better, and Julian needs to get better. But they have to feel like they're competing for something, right? Otherwise, why get better if I'm always just going to be stuck in the same position that I'm in?
Coach,
and hopefully, guys, that's like kind of, I get asked the same questions every single week. Like, that was clear enough on why there's a competition. Because at the time, like, it needs to stop coming about one particular player, and it needs to be about the team. We need to grow closer as a team, and we need to respond better when bad things happen.
Coach, you mentioned on Saturday that you wanted to look at the film and look at the effort level in the second half. What did you see there? Was there anything you didn't like, or were you actually kind of pleased with the fight there at the end?
No, I think we're so much better than what we put on film. Kind of what I alluded to earlier. When you don't have success, in some of the errors that we were making were basic errors, like not executing a call, not running a blitz when we should. Like they walked into the end zone at the end of the half there after the last turnover prior to after the Duggar exchange fumble. They walked in because we didn't execute a call. And it's unfortunate, and we got to grow and we got to get better. Through the second half, it was almost like we were reaching to make plays that weren't our responsibility. The big run that got outside of Ben Beatty, he needs to set an edge. The safety needs to fit the B gap. Like that's like basic day one install stuff. And it's on me as much as it is the players because they're not executing. And so I can't look any further than myself with how do I improve this football team. So I got to take it on the chin. We got whooped. I'm not proud of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and sulk and look for magic to happen. We have to make it by how we prepare and how we move on and how we respond as far as having a different level of competitive spirit to not give up at any point in the game, regardless of the situation or the score. That takes growth from all of us.
As you move forward to this week, I guess when you look at Washington on film, how key is it going to be to try and stop the run? I mean, these guys, many of them have seen Jonah Coleman for the last few years, did a good job against him last year. Just how much will that be kind of a key for your defense this week?
It'll be huge, and I don't think it's just stopping Jonah Coleman, although he's elite. I think Adam Muhammad is really good. Saw him personally live. We offered him a scholarship where I was just last at, probably the first to offer him because I saw him live, and he's grown a ton. And he looks also well equipped to have success throughout his career. And he is a really good young player, but that neither one of those guys play like they're young. Those are elite talent at the running back position, and the quarterback is extremely twitchy. I saw him out of high school. He's from Arizona, so being able to watch those guys live and watch his development, I think the quarterback's elite, and they got some real talent at wide receiver, and they've been much improved at the O-line position. You could see it in just their first couple games, the physicality, how they run off the ball, their ability to strike and redirect on a moving target. They're good, and so we need to get ready to match their level of intensity, and we got to be able to communicate and play as fast as possible.
On the defensive side, what challenges do you see on tape from the UW defense?
Yeah, they're physical. They play and they believe in their corners to match up man-to-man, and there's no surprise on what they're doing. They believe in their skill set, and obviously they got great depth at that position. I feel like they think that is one of their strengths, which it probably is. Just up front, they got some real players. And when you play great teams, which I believe UW is right now, at the end of the day, it's a chess piece, but it all ends up kind of in a one-on-one matchup, especially when your quarterback is as dynamic as theirs. And so that's kind of what they're doing defensively. They're going to say that they're better than us, and they're going to line up, and they're going to play their brand of football, and we got to be able to execute. And we got to play with our hair on fire and be physical and play with the right emotion and intensity for 60 minutes in this game.
Talked a lot about accountability and ownership. What changes do you expect to make in your preparation to better prepare your team for the week ahead?
Yeah, I think it's about where we put our guys in situations, what they're good at, and really taking a good look at our personnel and say, what are we asking them to do? Is it outside of the frame of what they're ready to do regardless of the scheme? And I think that as coaches, you got to take a self-reflection on it's not the scheme that wins games, it is the players that win the games. And I think that you've seen that a little bit as far as just what we did versus Idaho to what we did at San Diego State. We turned the ball over in this last game, right? And so as much as I want to be there to make the plays for the players, we got to put them in better situations and maybe calls that don't put them in that bind in a certain down and distance, right? Or don't ask certain players to do things that they're not right now proficient at is what they should be. And I would love to say that we're a final product, but as I started this season, I don't think we're going to be a final product until, towards the end of the season. We got to progressively get better. There's a lot of new people on this team in a new system, and we can say, well, you've had time. Like you have a spring ball. It's not like we don't mentally know. A lot of these things are like technical technical things, and then being able to adjust on the fly. And be able to put our guys in situations with things that they know. Those things happen over time if you're in a system because there's a recall of it, but when you have a lot of new players, there is no recall. They're living off of what was taught that week.
Do you anticipate that Devin Ellison will play this week?
We're kind of waiting to see how he looks this week as well.
And then same question for Anthony Polano. Is there any?
Same thing. We're waiting to see. I'm optimistic that he will be able. It's going to depend on like this week of practice and if he gets cleared.
Being new to this rivalry, how do you immerse yourself in it and the players that are new to it as well?
Yeah, I think every time you play a rivalry game, it's emotional. I try to take myself out of the emotion of it because I don't know if that's the clearest way to think as a coach. My approach to the games really don't change. The preparation can't change as much as you want one more than the other, right? I think that if you don't want them all the same, you're leaving something to chance. But I know how important it is to the alum, and I know how important it is to the state for Washington State as far as this game. I've heard it since I've gotten here, and we're not taking them lightly. We need to prepare and go out and execute and play at a really high level because we're deserving to play at a really high level. Regardless of who we're playing at, we got to earn it, and we got to earn it right now. And the prep has to start today as far as how we get ourselves in the right position to have success to make a run at this. So will it be pretty? I don't know if any game is pretty when you play great teams. You just need to find a way, and that's what we got to do this week. We got to find a way.
Kind of read my mind when you were talking about all the people that were telling you about it. In those first couple weeks when we were so new, how many, what percentage of the people when they welcomed you to town or something said, make sure you go out and beat the Huskies?
Quite a bit.
Do you think you guys have an identity on offense right now?
We're looking for one, yes.
Okay. I guess the follow-up would be kind of a two-parter. One, like, what do you want the identity to be? And when you open up the quarterback competition the way you are now, what kind of effect do you think that'll have on the identity?
Well, I think we're looking for answers to have success with a lot of new people. And the reality is we need to get into rhythm and be able to execute well at a particular thing. And I feel like every time that we start to get in rhythm, penalties have killed us throughout this season so far. Penalties killed us on defense this weekend, right? We were in position to respond after a couple of those turnovers as far as the down that we were getting them to maybe hold them, and then we had a PI. Identity-wise on offense, like I said before, I have a mindset of what I'd like to be. Are we ready to be that right now in the course of the season? We have to adjust, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for answers right now as far as where we can have success and what our players are the best at. At the end of the day, you can't turn the ball over. At the end of the day, you have to make the right decision when you're the quarterback, and you got to be able to move around a little bit, right? And you got to make something of your legs when things break down on you, and they're not perfect. And I think that you saw some of that in the game. It was just inconsistent, right? It's what I told the team this morning. And then we turned the ball over. Like we shot ourselves in the foot over and over. So there are no redos in games. You either go out and execute or you don't. And we did it on Saturday, and we got to learn from it. We got to take it on the chin. I'm not perfect. I don't expect the players to be perfect, but I do expect that there's a certain level of response and there's an excitement to try to understand that we got so much season left and we can get better. We got to believe that we can get it better. We got to believe in our own abilities. And then we got to go out and execute because I know that the team is better than what they put on the field Saturday.
When you get a chance, kind of, especially in the second half, kind of get a look at some of the younger defensive players, maybe some guys who weren't getting as many snaps in the first two games. What are you able to kind of glean from those snaps and say, okay, even if it was maybe in a blowout sort of role, what are you able to take from that and kind of see what guys are able to do on the field in that way?
Yeah, I think it's really important to try to put your guys in situations regardless of the score. Obviously, when the score is much closer, it's easier to stick with ones and twos, but in order to get guys into the game and the game got out of reach, so is it worth risking injury to certain positions? I don't know if it was. Especially the way things were moving in that game. But I think every time that you can put a player in there and gain some type of experience, it pays dividends later on. It's no different than using 4 games on freshmen and trying to have them on special teams and have them involved with the game plan so that they can grow, so they know what travel feels like, so they know what the first game jitters feels like, so they know what the crowd feels like. There's a growth in all of this, and they got to feel comfortable in their skin. And we're going to be young, right? We're young when you look at our roster, as far as we have some senior depth and experience, but at the same time, like we go really young. After this, we got quite a bit of freshmen in there, and I've been proud of some of these guys and how they respond. You got certain guys in certain situations for the first time in their entire life, and obviously their growth will be exponentially different than somebody that's played here for 2 to 3 years that has had reps throughout games. Like they may grow rapidly than an older player. So we just got to keep getting better and stay focused on what we can control. We can't get caught up in the outside noise of what people think of us, because it doesn't do any good.
You said right before the season started, there was going to be 5 freshmen you figured would play more than the 4 games. Has that number changed at all? You still think those 5?
Yeah, just some certain guys haven't got on the field maybe in a significant amount of role to make an impact. Sullivan Slimgin, just with the situation that we're in right now, I do believe he'll impact us, and he'll impact us at either Will or Mike. We started him off at Will linebacker, and just with the Keith Brown's situation, he kind of has moved to that Mike linebacker role, and then obviously with Polano, and now he took reps in the game and was in a rotation. He played quite a bit. Trillian Sorrell played, I think, 23 snaps on defense, and was able to have an impact on special teams. And to get him more involved, I think, is important, especially so we don't burn just years to burn years. So I'm really cautious of making sure that we utilize guys if we're going to end up pulling their shirt. I think it's right by them, and I think it's right by their future. Carter Paps is a guy that has emerged as a good player for us, and we're going with Carter. I mean, everybody can see the impact that he's made in a short amount of time, 3 games in. So Demarius we're reassessing right now, obviously, and I do want to be able to use some of the freshman DBs, because I do think that is a strength right now, is maybe they impact us on special teams because they have natural speed and athleticism in order to compete. They have to know what they're doing still. And so we're going to continue to move the pieces around. And then obviously Kyle Peterson is playing right now. So I think that was the right move, and he's making an impact. And at any point we could be losing a guy, and he's in an even bigger role, and he has a huge role right now.
Is there anything to this particular game coming now after what happened last week? And obviously your team's going to be angry, wanting to prove themselves, and having a big rivalry game, to have that kind of innate intensity and energy to bounce back. Is this a good time for this game to happen in the season?
Well, is it a good time? It is the time, and we need to respond and get ready to compete. I can't care about what time of the year. I don't set the schedule. I just try to get the guys ready to play, and last week we failed at that. I failed at that, and it's a new challenge, new week, new mindset, new energy needs to happen when we step on the field, or really when we come back later tonight to assess the game plan moving forward. And it's our job to get our guys ready to compete, to play whoever. But this being a rivalry game, I think it's added motivation, energy. I know that the team knows that they're better than what they put out there last week. It wasn't the first time I've been through this. The last time that we had played like that in my career was JMU a long time ago. Our quarterback threw 5 interceptions ending the half. The difference was we were down by 7 going into half, even after 5 interceptions. So was that player better than how he performed? Absolutely. He ended up having a shot at the NFL. He had a bad game, and because he had a bad game, he had to take responsibility of that. We ended up turning the ball over 8 times in that game, and we lost. And we were much better than the product that we put on the field that day. It just happened to be a quarterfinal or semifinal game that we were playing in and lost. So they have the opportunity to take this and run with it and say this one loss isn't going to define our season. We have to do that collectively, and they have to believe in themselves, and they have to believe in their teammates that we can get this done. And if anything, I do believe the guys are close. I do believe that they want to be good. We got to put them in situation to have success, and we got to continue to see what they're best at in order to have success. Just because I believe in a certain style of play doesn't mean that you're ready to do it right now. You can't ram a square peg down a round hole and just keep wondering why it doesn't work. I think that's part of our job as coaches, is to take the players, take their skill set, take their knowledge, and grow them into being the best player that they could possibly be, and the scheme fits around them. It's not the other way around. Over time, will we get closer? Yeah. We'll get closer to the product that we want to become, because obviously you start to recruit a certain type of way in a system. But it is what it is right now. We got to continue to respond and take jumps forward. And these guys that are here need to continue to grow and develop. And we got to put them in the right situation to have success. That's on me, that's on the coaching staff, and that's on the players wanting to grow. So we got to have a growth mindset and take this as one hit, not a bunch of hits in a row just because we lost.
Over the years, this matchup's been defined by kind of a gap in resources, a gap in talent. Given your experience at an FCS school, beating FBS schools, beating larger schools, how can you what in those moments helped you beat those larger schools, and how can you depend on that experience this week?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the lack of resources. I'm just not that way. There are things that we don't have that other schools have. I've been at that level. We have to execute. We have to come with a mindset that we can beat anybody. I think over time, when you build a culture that's strong and competitive, and players believe in themselves because they put in the work, you're able to have success when you get into tight battles versus teams that aren't deserving to beat, maybe based off of resources or dollars or stuff like that. And I don't look for excuses. I'm not looking for one here. We need to get ready to play our best football. I've been on great teams and we've lost, but teams that we should have beat. And I've been a part of teams that weren't as athletic, didn't have the measurables, didn't have the traits, but they collectively played together. They wanted it more, and we went out and shocked people. It's the game of football. We got to get ourselves ready to compete. Do I think we can win this game? I do. We have to want it, though, and we have to make sure that our focus is in the right mindset to go out and compete at the highest level. It's up to our players to believe the same thing, get themselves ready, and play as fast as they possibly can. So we got to put them in situations that have the right play speed to compete and be physical and feel comfortable in their skin. It's a great team. It's a great team, but I do believe that we have players that will compete for sure.
Wanted to ask you about how important Josh Meredith's voice could be this week. Somebody who's played in this game, had such a consequential role in this game last year, and his role maybe introducing guys to the rivalry and kind of being that steady hand.
I don't think Josh Meredith's role in this game is different than what he's already done. He's a veteran leader that has helped our young wide receivers. I mean, he helps them every day by showing them what it looks like to work extremely hard. Josh Meredith has worked himself into a good football player, great football player, because of how he works and goes about his business. He wasn't just blessed with God-given ability and some freak intangibles. He works extremely hard. He practices that way. He never looks for time off, and he knows what he's supposed to do, and he executes really fast. And when you have a chip on your shoulder, maybe because of the experience of what you've had in the history of maybe feeling like he wasn't given the opportunity or how he was thought of, he didn't complain about it. He took action. He got faster. He's had a bigger role. He just keeps working at it, and that's all I can ask from a guy like that. As far as like him giving those guys a pep talk and that being the deciding factor on why we go win a game, I don't think that's the case. There is no pep talks that get you to play better. It's intrinsically getting yourself ready by how you prepare and knowing that you can play at any level against anybody. And so we got to get ourselves ready to play.
Okay, good. Got one more? Sorry. You mentioned earlier just trying to kind of maximize the skill sets of individual players and kind of put them in the best spots. Do you have any examples that come to mind? I'm
not really.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to. That's part of our job. It's part of trying to create a competitive balance. Yeah, I'm not going to highlight everything that we're good at and then use it as game planning against us. So we need to get ready to just play our best football right now. But there are certain guys, obviously, right, that are better at certain things, regardless of what your skill level is. If maybe I'm a safety and I'm not the best at man, but I am the best in the box, right? We got to put our guys in situations to have success. And I say that on one thing. It could be at any position. It could be a tight end. It could be a wide receiver. It could be what we're asking the backs to do in certain run concepts. And obviously you can't become predictable on what you do schematically just based off who's in the game. But there is a balance with putting guys in certain situations and keeping teams off balance by what you have on the field and what you're asking people to do. Thanks, guys.